afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Really happy to have you all here. Thank you for joining us today for navigating the 2026 Public Pension Compensation Survey. Again, really glad to have you here. I am Matt Eckel. I'm the Director of Research at NCPERS, and I'm going to be moderating today's session. Before we dive in, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. If you have any questions at any point, please feel free to use the Q&A function in Zoom. We will be keeping an eye on those throughout the session, and we'll address as many as we can during the Q&A period at the end. Also, for everyone who registered, you will receive a recording of today's webinar along with the slide deck via email once we're done. So you should have everything you'll need to reference and share with your teams as we get into this important survey. And with that in mind, today's session is really designed to make this process easier for you. We're going to walk through how the survey works, what information you'll need in order to fill it out, and how to successfully get it completed ahead of the May 12th deadline. And just as a reminder, participation in the survey gives your organization complimentary access to the final results, which is an incredibly valuable benchmarking tool and one that in the past we have been told is incredibly valuable. So we really do hope that everyone will take advantage of that and participate. So with that in mind, I am joined today by Taylor Sprague, a compensation consultant at CBIZ, as well as Joe Rice, also a compensation consultant over at CBIZ. And they're going to be walking us through the survey and sharing their own expertise. So with that, I will turn it over to Taylor and Joe to introduce themselves and get us going.
Thanks for that, Matt. So I'm Joe Rice with the CBIZ Compensation Consulting Team. I lead our public sector and public pension compensation efforts. So I've been with CBIZ for the past 10 plus years and launched our legacy original CBIZ compensation pension survey back in 2018, and been very happy with the partnership we've had with NCPERS to help increase the reach and continue to add value and make sure it's meeting the needs of all the participants here. Taylor, you want to say hi as well real quick?
Yeah, thanks for that, Matt and Joe. My name is Taylor Sprague. I'm a consultant for CBIZ, and in partnership with Joe have been working on this public pension specific compensation survey for the past 8 years. So happy to be here today.
Good. I have the agenda pulled up here. It's pretty straightforward. So first of all, today is the launch of our 2026 survey. So this morning, all of you should have received the invitation to participate in that process. If you did not, please reach out, let us know. It might mean that we didn't have you on our contact list, or there's some other issue getting in the way. So definitely reach out if there's any issues there. Really what we want to focus on is just give a quick walkthrough of how to complete the data collection file. We do get feedback that it's pretty easy and intuitive, but just want to make sure we go through that and make sure everything is understood. And then we'll have some time at the end. If there's any questions, we can help answer that. I have one quick slide where I talk about CBIZ a little bit more. So if you're not familiar with us, we do have different services that we provide public pension funds. So our compensation consulting group is a part of that. So, this survey data is important to us, but it's important because we use it on our compensation consulting engagements where we help clients with, benchmarking, assess competitive pay, build compensation administration plans. We also have an executive search team that has long worked within the industry to place executives and other investment or senior level positions. Outside of that, we have pension administration solutions. We have some software. We have our actuarial and retirement services, and then an investment advisory services group as well. So you may be familiar with us from one or more of those things, or many others that are not listed on this slide. So I'll give one slide here on why participate, and then we'll switch over to the data collection file and talk through that before closing back at the report here. But in exchange for your data, we do provide a free participant report. And so we've received very good feedback that it is a valuable tool. You can see a screenshot of that there, but we provide compensation data back for each position. And we do segment the data in ways that may be helpful to you as you assess pay. So we might look at breakouts based on assets under management, members, number of employees, things like that, to make sure that we have valuable data cuts that are going to be relevant to your organization. And then Matt mentioned the dashboard as well. So NCPERS members do have access to a dashboard that allows for additional mining of the data to look at specific peer groups and organizations and data cuts and things like that, in a more interactive and flexible way than you get in that static participant report. So both of those are definitely worth the time and effort that it takes to complete the survey. So with that, I do want to focus on the data collection file. So within the invitation, we have the data collection file. So we have this as an Excel worksheet. It is the easiest way to collect the type of data that we're looking for in a survey like this. So it can be a lot to complete, but we appreciate the time that goes into it. There's an instructions page to start with. And since we're going to go through that, I'm not going to highlight the instructions, but we do have that detail there on how to complete this form. We start with just trying to gather information about who completes the survey and who it should go to. So we're looking for your organization name and address. It just helps us kind of track and segment results. The more specific you can be about the organization name, the better. Sometimes the abbreviations are helpful, but like to get the full organization name would be ideal. And then the next is who should we contact if we have questions? So it's probably going to be you if you're the one submitting the file, but then also who should receive the results. So sometimes we'll see that there is someone who will conduct the survey submission, but maybe they want the results file to go to the executive director. So you can list that separate person. If it's you, just put your information on both and you'll make sure to receive the copy. You'll see listed throughout the file a couple of things. So we always say who to return the file to. There's the generic comp surveys at cbiz.com. Both Taylor and I monitor that inbox so we can track the participation files. And then a lot of reminders up front that the survey results are due on May 12th. DCF1, so it's data collection form 1, is information that we're looking for just about the organization overall. So we start with just trying to understand how many employees you have. So FTE is full-time equivalent. And so I've populated some of the information here. So say 60 employees in this example. We do like to look at the number of investment staff positions. That can be somewhat murky when you think about investment accounting or investment operations or some legal positions, but really we're trying to get to the core traditional investment staff with that question. Outside of that, how many non-investment staff employees do you have? We're interested in the number of members. That's one of the ways that we segment the data. So having accurate information there is helpful. How many retirement plans does your system administer? Really what we're looking for there is if you're you might be responsible for state employees and judges, right? So in that case, that would be 2 different retirement systems that you're responsible for. We would want to capture 2 there. Assets under management, pretty straightforward. If you can put that accurately with the right number of zeros instead of like the 50B or something like that, it's just going to help with some of the data integrity. And then what type of employees beneficiaries does your system serve? So it's another way that we can segment the data is, if it's focused on, public safety, police and fire positions, we have that segmented. We could pull that out to make sure we're comparing to other funds that match that dynamic. So here I'm using an example that it's an educational based fund. So, maybe state teachers, something like that is the focus of the plan. Who oversees policies and practices for each of the following area? We ask this question because it's helpful to understand the degree of independence that you have, for some of these things. So are you tightly controlled as part of the state process? Do you have independence for a lot of these different aspects, or is it some combination of the above? So we're trying to identify with these drop downs whether or not the authority for budget responsibility and improving the budget exists within the system or the plan, or if it's controlled by the plan sponsor, if that is the state or the county or the municipality. Does that exist within the fund or back to the plan sponsor? So we ask those questions for budget, employment, so headcount, staff benefits, staff wages, investment staff wages. So sometimes we'll see a split where staff wages might be part of the state classification system, but there is independence for the investment team that those can be set within the fund. So we could have differences there. And then the last question on this page asks, does the system manage investment assets? Really what we're trying to identify there is, do those dollars come into you or do they go to a separate state agency? It's not an internal direct investment versus hiring external managers type of question. It's, we'll see some states where those dollars are managed by one single investment agency. That's really what we're trying to get at versus whether those dollars come into the fund. Data collection file 2 then asks about some of the compensation administration processes. So initially, we want to understand how annual salary increases are evaluated. So is that cost of living based and or merit? So sometimes we'll see that there's both components that make up a part of that. That helps us understand just how many organizations incorporate merit into their salary increase process. If there's some other, component that makes that up, go ahead and list that in there. Maybe it's automatic steps or something like that. And then we're trying to gather salary budget increase information. So we ask, what was the approved salary increase budget for the last process? And then what are you budgeting or anticipating for this next process? We also ask some bonus information. So does your system offer any bonus or short-term variable pay? So that's a yes, no answer. If yes, we're asking some additional questions of, is it tied to investment performance? How is that measured? We also ask, is your system experiencing problems with attracting and retaining skilled employees? So we have a couple drop-down options there. This has been a helpful question to just track the overall, tone from year to year to year. Last year was the first year that we asked for information about compensation philosophy, and we have that here as well. So we ask, one, do you utilize the compensation philosophy to guide the compensation process? So yes, no answer. If yes, is it tied to a specific market percentile? So most organizations would anchor their pay structure to some point within the market. And so what we have identified here is, yes, it's tied to the market 50th percentile. That means they're building their pay structure around that point where half pay more, half pay less. We see within that too, you could say the market 50th percentile, and maybe you want to compete with total cash compensation. So you might not have a bonus plan, but you want your base pay to be competitive with those funds that are with the external market, taking into account that total cash opportunity. So we ask for base salary and total cash compensation. Most are still going to anchor that back to base pay. And then we have some questions just to see, do you target industries outside of public pension funds, or are you primarily focused just with, doing market comparisons to other public pension funds? And so, here we're just asking, what, if any, industries do you target beyond public pension? I've listed none in this example. If yes, does that differ between staff, executive, or investment? So for staff, we might see like a broader general industry comparison. For the investment employees, we might see comparisons to endowments or foundations or a mix of other different things. DCF3 is focused on some benefit items. So it's really just an inventory to see what you offer versus what you don't. So first, none does not offer that. That's typically again, tied to like plan sponsor things where you might be tied to a county. The county is responsible for controlling the benefits, or the state might mandate those things. And so if you do provide, then we're just looking for a yes, no inventory for a selection of these things. We do ask about remote work and flexible work. If you have a flexible work schedule, we do ask how many days are in office. So to complete that. And then what other benefits or perks do you provide that are especially popular with staff? This can be helpful for us just to identify, are there some things we should be asking about in the future? So populated here that maybe you have paid parental leave, and that's a popular benefit. Something like that would be an example of what to list here. So I'll turn it over to Taylor to talk about the DCF4.
Great, thanks. Data collection form 4 is where we're gathering the incumbent compensation data and doing our survey benchmarking process. We are looking for data that's effective as of April 1, or at least most recently that you're able to export and provide that information. In row 3, you'll see bolded and in red, very important. We're looking for employee by employee information reported here. We do not want to average salaries by position. I'll get to why that's important here in a minute. In all of the blank data collection files that you received to complete, you'll see an example in row 6 for the CEO/ED. Feel free to override this or use it as a guide. We just put that in as an example of how we are looking for the data to be reported. I'll walk through a quick example for pension fund ABC, if you will. I've listed 5 employees. I'll work my way left to right from column to column. In column A, we're just looking for each employee's ID. So we have 1 through 5 listed here. Column B, we're looking for your internal job title for each employee. You see we have member service rep 1 listed twice. Again, going back to individuals within the same job title, we do want all of those reported. We have a business transformation officer, an executive assistant, and a board secretary. Column C is our survey job code, which is tied to our survey job title. So you'll see column D is gray as it's a live formula. As you input the survey benchmark job code, this will automatically populate. And this is directly correlated to the job summaries tab, where we provide the list of job titles included in the survey, as well as those descriptions. So as we work through here, we'll want to evaluate our job descriptions on each position and match those to those job summaries. So for the member service representative, we've evaluated those and noted that those are a benchmark match to the job summaries tab, BEN 110. You see, as I input that job code, the survey job title will automatically populate. Our second member service rep is that same benchmark. As we get to our business transformation officer, we've read our description, we've read the survey descriptions to see that none really fit, none really match. We would like you in these scenarios to include those positions. It's beneficial for us ongoing that we review positions that did not have a match and evaluate whether they could be beneficial for us to include in future surveys. So please include those where you don't have a corresponding match. We go to the executive assistant. We found that this matches to ADM 104. And finally, our board secretary, we find that to match to ADM 103. Column E, we're looking for that full-time equivalent or FTE percent. So for ease of math or understanding, most will consider 100% FTE as someone who works those 40-hour work weeks, right? So to our member service representative 1, they're considered 100% FTE. As we go down, all are in the same boat besides our board secretary at 50% FTE to that 40-hour work week example. This employee mathematically would then work 20 hours a week in this scenario. Column F, we're looking for the years this employee has served in this job title. So again, I want to emphasize the years the employee has served in this specific job title, not total tenure from hire date, but again, how long the employee specifically has been in this, for this example, member services rep 1. Column G, we're looking for the annualized base salary as a whole dollar. So as we see for the first 4 employees, our salaries would be that of what they're actually paid on an annual basis because they are 100% FTE equivalent. When we get to our board secretary at the 50% FTE, this would assume that the employee makes actually $40,000. But again, we're looking for that annualized rate. So we are bringing that $40,000 they actually make up to an annualized rate of 100%. So we're doubling that. That brings us to $80,000. Columns H, I, and J are the annual salary range as a whole dollar. So we're looking, if applicable, what do those ranges look like per job or per employee at a minimum, midpoint, and maximum value. Columns K through N, we're focusing on bonus or incentive compensation where applicable. So if they are not eligible for any bonus or annual incentive compensation, you can leave these blank. In our example, we did note that the business transformation officer is eligible for bonus compensation. We're looking for the minimum, target, and maximum bonus values as a percentage of base salary. So we put the 2.5% as the minimum percentage eligible of base salary. The target bonus percentage of base salary is 5%. The maximum bonus as a percentage of base salary being 10%. The last column in, we're just looking for the most recently awarded bonus as a whole dollar. Column O is new this year. We're wanting to gather information on an employee by employee basis to see which employees are eligible for any special programs that are not offered to the general staff. So some examples would be long-term incentives, special retirement plans, or any executive benefits and perquisites. We'd like you to put a yes if those are offered there or a no if not. This is really a entry-level question. We want to gather information this year, potentially build off it in future years. You'll see in our example, we did note a gym membership offered for the business transformation officer, a no for everyone else, but do want to point out the comments section in P is not directly related to the additional total rewards column. This is just here for you to provide any additional information that's helpful, either on your end or for our end. You'll see I noted on the board secretary around that FTE percentage of 50%, noting their annual salary is actually $40,000, but we did annualize it to provide the information that we're looking for in that column. The last two columns, Q and R, you'll see open 1 and 2. We just provide these there if needed for any calculations, backing into an annualized salary, calculating a bonus, most recently awarded bonus off a percentage, any of those, feel free to use these open columns here for that. Our next tab is job summaries, which ties again to that survey job code column on DCF4 that we just pointed out. We just outline each survey position title with that survey job code and each job description used to do the benchmarking. The feedback tab is an optional tab. We're always trying to improve our survey and processes each year. So we want to gather some information on your all's end. How was your experience collecting this information? What could we improve on? Was there anything confusing? Were there any jobs that you all have internally that are important to potentially consider adding in future surveys? And just some catch-alls, any additional thoughts, comments that you'd like to provide us?
Taylor? So a couple reminders before we open up for questions. May 12th is the deadline. For the invite that you received, there's also landing page information. So we do have some frequently asked questions that are posted there. And then again, once the data collection form is completed, please email that to compsurveys@cbiz.com. On the back end, we're anticipating that the results will be available this fall. And we will preview the results at the HR Summit. So there's some information there to attend the HR Summit if you're in the HR field. So the next summit will be in Phoenix in September. So certainly check out that information and register for the conference if that's something you're interested in. So we can open it up for some questions. It looks like there has been some in the chat. I'll try to check those.
Indeed. So Taylor and Joe, thank you so much for that. So yeah, I think we can move on to questions. We've got just a couple that have shown up in the chat, and again, we want to remind people that you can use the Q&A feature here on Zoom if you have anything else that you'd like to submit. So our first question here is that if we have, or if the respondent has different tiers of benefits, would those be considered different retirement plans, or should that be responded as though it's the same?
So that would be the same, right? So I think like if you have frozen, legacy levels of benefits, but it's still, something that you're providing into your public safety members, that's just one plan, right? So it's not the tiers and frozen plans. It's are there distinct plans, which means they're each going to have their own level of, who those members are, maybe some differentiated plan design details and complexities that help identify, um, uh, kind of that additional scope or knowledge that some employers are going to need to have to serve disparate groups with different levels of framework. So no, I would treat those tiered legacy plans as still just one plan.
Great. And we have another question that relates to the state of Illinois specifically, although I expect there may be some other contexts in which this is important. So we have for the state of Illinois, full time is 37 and a half hours a week. Can we still mark 100% FTE, or would that be considered different?
It's really whatever full time is to you. So yeah, if it's a 37 and a half hour work week, 35-hour work week, which is some of that too. It is really for however you define that internally. So certainly identify that as 100%.
Great. Don't have any other questions coming up. Just to give people a moment to perhaps ask any more they might have thought of. Joe or Taylor, you've been through this rodeo a couple of times now. Are there specific concerns or questions or elements of the survey that occasionally trip folks up that you would like to potentially highlight or um, kind of otherwise bring notice to, as long as we've got a little time here?
Sure. Yeah, I think that has been an area, since 2018 where we continue to have some improvement. There are some of those questions where we do see participants struggle, or as we look at the results, we know that is not accurate. So we continue to evaluate how we ask some of those questions. And starting last year, we added some of that data quality checks as well to flag some of that. So I think we've seen a lot of that go down in recent years. So really nothing to highlight at this point.
All right. I don't believe we've got.
I think one more popped up.
Oh, do we have one more now? I don't know that it's actually showing up for me. So if you can see it,
Okay.
then
It says, are we only benchmarking jobs in our organization that match the job matches?
good question.
And so yes, I think as Taylor highlighted, we think it is most helpful. And someone earlier in my career, I participated in some of these salary surveys as well. Like, typically what I would do is I just put in all my employees and then start going through the job matching process. And so we want to identify a reliable match. And so, like, if for any reason you have a position where there's not a good, reliable match within our data set, skip it. We're not asking that you try to find the best available. If it's not a good match, just move on. And so for the I think business transformation officer, that's not a job that we currently have in our data set. So just skip over that. Even if you have a job that looks like a good match by title, but there's just, your job is fundamentally different in some ways, and you don't think it's a good reliable match, we would ask that you just skip that one as well. So yes, only identify matches where you think it is reliable based on what Taylor looked at in that job summary list. That would be all.
All right. Once again, thank you so much, Taylor and Joe, both. That was a really helpful walkthrough and a great discussion. We appreciate everybody here who has taken the time to join us today. This is just a quick reminder that, again, the invitation went out earlier today. So if you haven't received one or nobody at your organization has received one, do please get in touch with us at research@ncpers.org. And just a quick reminder again that the survey deadline is May 12th. So we encourage folks to begin working through your responses if you haven't already. Also, as mentioned earlier, all registered attendees will receive a recording of today's webinar along with the slide deck via email. So do keep an eye out for that. And if any additional questions come up as you are working through the survey, again, please don't hesitate to reach out. We are here to be a resource for you. We want to make this both as easy and frankly as accurate as possible. And so beyond that, we just really appreciate your time and participation, and we hope folks found today's session valuable. So have a fantastic afternoon, everybody.
Mhm.